everybody. Just checking the technology. How are you doing tonight? We're going to start by looking at poems to pay tribute to my amazing dog, Wolf, a fox terrier smooth, who, unlike his breed, had ears that stood straight up. Fox terrier smooth's ears are supposed to lay down, but his stood straight up. He was more like the fox and the mini greyhounds that had bred his breed. I miss Wolf. He passed away in 2013. I held on to him for 2 hours, and they said, you have to let him go. We've got other people that need to get in here. So this is a poem, first poem about him. It's called Ancient Pictures. At 14, I married travel by poetry. Equally addicted to Psalm 95 and Leonard Cohen, I took home from the store 100 poems from the Chinese and a paperback book called Prose Poems from France. At the yard sale, I chose hardcover John Keats, who wrote in Old Greek rhythms as the romantic worldview fell fast forward. My father puzzled how farmers' almanacs with ancient symbols on their covers were worth my allowance. One mystery was a weather vane, left and right a convex quarter moon, opposite sun with a mane of glory, 5-pointed star pointing up on a stem anchored to a roof. Another cover wore chains of hexagons like graphene, thin as lace and stronger than steel, both covers riveting compared to childhood in suburbia. Modern almanacs sounded like Taoists who said it pays to move with nature. Their other truths came from symbols on the cover, like the dark spots on my white dog's side that form the sign of the cross, the oldest known picture for bridge. Next one for Wolf is called Masterpiece Primitive. Masterpiece Primitive. The stranger at the door glimpses clothes on the floor, drifts of litter. This is how the dog of the house charms the wild fox females. And who is to say what makes a house a home? For me, it is this one-woman, half-wild fox dog that nests in the shredded newsprint. For him, home is the one who keeps him from scoring a quacking breakfast. His home is the one he woos away from all the barking books. Excuse me a minute. The next poem about Wolf is in the chapbook I printed called War Forsaken. It's undergoing revisions right now for a second edition. And this is Fog Lifting from a larger book called Record Heat. Between warm air above and warm pond waters below, a layer of cold air trapped turns to fog, visibility about 1 meter. The dog navigates by nose. He guides me safely to our fresh air fix on the half-Negro President streets at dawn, through fog thick as the mists of time. Thanks to fog, the dog gets his first close-up at a rabbit, unafraid. He lunges, but I hold the leash tight. In my country, Muslims with Christian mothers love their new country and work for peace. Christians with Muslim ancestry seek refuge in liberty to find welcome. Far back in time, we had the same grandmothers. Kindness, patience through trouble, and faith are our common ground. This fog of division over our home and lands lifts off gently as a chrism over gardens we now call home. Some tended by women with short hair, some tended by women in burqas, all of them smiling to work side by side. We hope this means lasting peace. The next one is How I Learned Wolf Could Read. One day, Wolf and I went into the pet store where there was a wet floor sign in the dog food aisle. Shoppers were shocked. He looked up at me. Wolf wet the floor. His intelligent brown eyes said, "If you didn't want me to wet the floor, why did you put up a sign?" You should see what he did below the sign. It said, "Void where prohibited." Next one is called Wolf Says Natural. The world as he sees it has gone dark overnight. He stops eating. One day, waking beside me, he licks my hand 57 times in a row to write on my skin that love never dies. We will take a one-way walk later. My father made a box that will hold him after. There are wings in the wood grain. Wolf blindly sniffs at the garden plants, himself a kind of ripening in progress. His smile says, "Plant me near the new beans," enthused with water to climb the light. Wolf loved to harass the ducks that lived on the pond below our balcony, and they sounded like dogs barking, and he barked to protect his territory, of course. It was always two sounds: bark, 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 bark. "Ark, ark, ark, ark," he shouted to the ducks. They understood him to say, "This place is all mine, and you are breakfast." I never let him catch one. A week after Wolf took his final walk, a group of ducks came up below my balcony where I sat alone and quacked softly, "Ark, ark, ark, ark." The question was clear. The answer was gentle. "He's gone. He will not chase you again. He misses you too. Thanks for asking." As if they understood every word, they looked at each other, quietly walked back to the pond. Even his natural enemies loved him. I hope to live that way too. And we'll close that section with Wolf's goodbye. This is a longer one. This is Wolf speaking, as if he could speak English. "Remember when you saw me the first time? A lady said, 'That dog is ugly.' My ears straight up, wrong for my breed, harking back to fox ancestry. My tricolors broken to paw prints of the other puppies I shared mom with, and the sign of the cross in dots on my side that inspired you to look me in the eyes and say convincingly, You are my pretty dog. That is when my animal heart melted almost to obedience. And if it had not been for my bad boy brother, who needed to be impressed by animal rebellion to like me, I would have let you rule from the start. I liked being a bad dog. So someone said I would put down a dog like that. Then you said, smiling, I will win. I must win. I am more stubborn than this dog is. So for your loyalty, I sometimes let you rule when no one was looking. Until that time, you made an animal noise from somewhere under your voice box. It meant my next step is to swallow you in one gulp. And I snapped to attention, ready to obey every nuance of your commands. Before that, my thinking was, you were too nice to be the alpha dog. And why should a creature majestic as I obey anyone below alpha level? That one noise told me I needed to submit. I did. By the time the years had taken away my sight, I knew I would have to leave soon. I could not see you or the world, but I knew your smell, your heat, your voice, your hands hovering just over the skin on my bony sides, on my ailing forehead, on my failing heart. Not long after I left the body of pain, I did not leave you. The body you built with food and water, I surrendered to your loving goodbye. Tearful embrace that lasted hours. Since you let them gather me to the flames, I have been unseen to others at your heels. No ailments. Without the leash you knew I had never loved. I only let you attach it to my collar in order to feel your free hand steady my neck as the latch took hold. At the last breath, with gladness, I closed those useless eyes that can see all things now that I have become all things. Only you can see me beside you as I have ever been, better than ever now, since I can go with you even to places where dogs are not allowed. With a leash on, I could not catch the rabbit. Now I catch the rabbit who feels no teeth, and I let it run away and easily catch it again, though it is not sure what it has to shake off or why it comes and goes without making a sound. So, gentle hand with the animal words, don't cry now. Only my failing body I laid down, not the love you still feel, that I shall ever feel also for you. Through animal baby whining, animal mischief, through the breaking down heart attack nights when you massaged my chest between your open hands, through days when I stopped eating, you loved me to the end. Never blame yourself. It is the road, not the traveler. The flower is not to blame for the fact that the fruit must fall. You did not make my love, you cannot unmake it. This path is the same for all, and it will lead you to me, so that where I am home now will be home to you. That completes my tribute to my dog Wolf. I'm so grateful for him in my life. Now I read some poems from a group called Not Literally. I had an amazing high school. It had a planetarium. And in the planetarium, was a teacher named Mr. Hill. And he pretty much taught us to question everything. So this is the poem for Mr. Hill called You Cannot Take Everything Literally. The word sunset is not accurate, he said. Think about it. The sun stays in one place while Earth's horizon rolls past it towards darkness that cradles the stars. The word sunrise is not correct, he said. Earth's eastern horizon falls headfirst into the possible to bring us back into daylight. We still say sunrise because it is already in the dictionary, and it is much easier to say than eastern horizon rolls towards the sun. Knowing this leads us to question all our nouns and labels. Mr. Hill invited us to meditate on other mysteries hidden in plain sight. Watching lights on the ceiling of the planetarium rotate, we came up with this, that Earth's light and dark sides are the same. Paradoxes everywhere you look. Not everybody dies falling, but everyone who dies falls like a leaf off chains of causes, falls out of history like the horizon to roll into its endless day. And furthermore, your future is foretold in the form of every opening seed and all the prophetic trees. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for opening all the mysteries of the world to students who were going out into the parking lot to get high during lunchtime and found out that there was more to blow their minds right there in front of them. We'll never forget you, Mr. Hill. This one is dedicated for Tim Green. I'm not sure why. We were on Facebook in 2010. We were reading each other's poems and inspiring each other, and something Tim Green wrote inspired me to write this poem. That's all I know about it. Thank you, Tim Green. That is not tonight's sky we see when you look up. It is multiple millions of skies, depending on how far from our eyes each star happens to be, depending on how long it has been since its light left home to just now land on your upturned face. And that distance also modified by Earth's motion. So landing on me all the time is a waterfall of star histories, not to mention histories of darkness, harder to trace and perhaps from even so much farther away. Was that why I fell in love with language? Not just my incapacity for calculus, the precisions of math being not nearly as fascinating as the actual complexity of every new moment, of a lifetime of moments impossible to take in. Is that why I didn't fall in love with the man who held my hand under the stars, thinking about all this instead of thinking of him, trying to get a grip, seeking something usefully simple, the written word? And this one's called Matchbook. It comes to you as folded paper. Open it. There they are, side by side, little cardboards tipped with potential fire. Vital help to light a cigarette in the wind, to light candles if the power grid fails. Why is it called a book? Try giving yourself to one book. It does not matter which one. It comes to you as folded paper. Open it. Let its words crawl slowly over your best attention and see what comes of words agitated to reveal their meanings, to reveal sparks released on their way to shining. Then try another book and notice now you are surrounded by more light and less shadow. It is up to you what to do about darkness. Then this one is to tease you a little bit about the next Poets Aloud Series 5, which is going to be about war poems. This one's called Only So Much. I worked in a bed and breakfast where we had to get in while people left and went downstairs for breakfast, and we had to clean everything in the room, change the sheets and everything before they came back. And it was anybody's guess how much time that would be. So a team of 7 of us went in and cleaned the rooms. Only so much. During the day, between the captain's room with the brass jacuzzi and the Four Seasons building, I make beds, rub sunblock lotion into wood furniture, sweep leaves off the walkways. On hands and knees, I reset fires and Roman tile stoves. And then I wipe vinegar water into wooden floors to erase footprints of visitors from many countries. Why do they leave half-empty wine bottles on the tip table? There's only so much a poet can do with stale wine. In a dream, I attend a poetry conference in a foreign country. Protesters gather in the streets. The poor want us to tour their iron factory. You poets, why don't you do something meaningful, they shout. Has hunger made them forget history? Haven't we already seen there is only so much a poet can do with an iron factory? Production of frying pans, lawn furniture, fireplace grates, and when those don't sell, bars for prison cells, gun production. You see the problem. I dedicate that to our friends in the Ukraine and everyone trying to help them. Okay, where do we go here? The next set of poems is from a book called Record Heat. Where is it? Here it is. And this is called the chapbook. It's something I printed and bound myself. It's wonderful to know how to print books, and it's great. There's one section of it called Destined to Prosper, and it has quite a few Easter poems in it. So it having recently been Easter and about to be the Coptic Easter, I'll read starting with Forgiveness. At the balcony garden, an Inca dove devours rosemary and mint seedlings, tasty even in seed. Some time ago, I would have called this opposition. Today, Rumi whispers, spinning in his worship. Planter, sprouts, pirate, rescuer, victor, and vanquished together make one dance. Had he read the Testaments where betrayer made the crucifixion and the resurrection possible? And so, ironic to the betrayer's intent, evaporated all betrayals on the one day that divided our calendar into before and after. Maturity, like farsightedness, has its upside. With no complaint, strengthened by its losses, magnificent grows the remnant climbing rose. This next one, I mentioned T.S. Eliot. He was a Christian poet, and it was not popular for modern poets to retain any kind of faith, which was considered outdated by the modernists as just a point of beginning. You weren't modern unless you had rejected everything that came before, including faith. So he was very bold to keep his faith to the end and to write treasures of faith in a global language, including Sanskrit and many other languages he had acquired. This is in honor of him. Old sky, new sky. Back when there was one family of man, their vast heaven lived above its vast living mirror, a broken mirror. War in heaven explained war on earth. The more was given to make weapons and treasures, the less there was left to repeat old songs that no longer fit polluted cities, over which the sky gasped and wheezed like a flatliner. T.S. Eliot wrote about that flatliner sky. Dear T.S., you wrote, April is the cruelest month. Corpse gray frost in late winter is worse to me. Though I see your point. Whitman saw it too. After bloody civil war, sweet lilacs rose like liars, or at least ironic to the carnage. Likewise, World War shattered your rhymes down to stuttering. You said you were left to shore up your ruins with fragments. Yet in griefs for the lost unspoken, you heard still the word within the world and for the world. A light against despair, T.S. Eliot. You did dare to quote apocalyptic thunder and to finish your Ash Wednesday with unmasked prayer. Old it's dirt. In the garden tombs, Jesus explained his destiny. The seed must be buried before it can bear fruit. His friends did not want to hear it. A love note from the All-Father built right into the world he was sent to save. There was the truth as old as dirt. By his feet, forget-me-nots rising from roadside mud. When it came his time to release the world, he went quietly. As quietly as these seeds, it is now the season to drop softly into garden soil. Body my own, gift on loan, when your time comes, ignore Dylan Thomas. Go gently into that good night. The return of dirt to dirt is not the end of the story. Dear body, some screams are not alarms. Children scream playing, and we just go by past their imagined monsters. Make-believe danger is nothing but noise. Then there is the devoted pet who throws himself against the door of your absence, as if it could bring you running back to him from duty by going to extremes. He does not know the clock's language that says absence is not forever. And there will come a time, hopefully distant, to use what these have taught me. I suppose you will miss me, my body, companion of my every feeling, Dear body, when your time is up, you will turn some hydrangea's flowers blue while I must go. Everybody suffers. If you haven't been attacked, someday you will be. And there are ways to heal from the effects of being attacked. And I was in severe PTSD after several years of torture, and sought advice from an Aikido master. Now, Aikido is a martial art that uses the enemy's power against them. Instead of karate moves, it anticipates the attacker's moves and turns a quarter turn, turns slightly to one side, grabs the fist being thrown at them and sends it away. Fist wants to come this way, help the fist go that way. Pretty simple. So I watched this 80-year-old Aikido master smiling the whole time reduce a black belt 60 years younger than him in just a few minutes to a body writhing on the floor with his arm twisted behind him in pain. It was amazing. This is for him, the master's secret. Survivor of every kind of attack, she asks the Aikido master, survivor of 3 wars, how do you stay calm when the attacker comes right at you? He says, welcome hostility as you would welcome a friend, he says. His smile convinces her that it works. After all, without your enemy, you cannot know how strong you are, he says. She says she does not think she could pretend like that. I did not say to pretend, he smiles. Be calm to see how to work the attacker's own energy against him. When you have won, not by striking blows, but by not letting attack sink into you, lift up your enemy and love him like a dear friend from the heart without fear, since you have overcome. She asks, what if I can't overcome him? He says, it is yourself you must overcome. Then the rest will be easy. And here come the Easter poems. Good Friday, early morning. I used to grow plants indoors because, as we know, winters in the Midwest can be freezing cold when you think it's going to be warm, and kill all the seedlings and the buds off the trees. So you have to start the seedlings inside, and I used to do that on the balcony, and just inside the balcony were tables covered with trays of dirt where I'd plant the seedlings, and they'd reach for the light, delightful ways. Good Friday, early morning. The dance of the indoor seedlings moves in slow motion. White-coated zucchini seeds buried last week have risen, their cotyledons large, ovoid, and veined like the primordial egg. Coats off, each cotyledon twined as praying hands, as sides of covenant, in symmetry older than planets. Disappointments, insults, don't matter in the glow of these golden green oars raised to touch above the boat of our days. In their good light, we determine to push troubled waters far behind. And the next day would be Saturday, the night before Easter. Trouble is never the end of the story. The way to enjoy this day is to live it. I am defiantly cheerful under threat. The landlord called us uninhabitable, sight unseen, hearing rumors about tables loaded with dirt. Trying to guess what others consider uninhabitable, I clear away all. The dog fears we are moving out forever. He sits on my foot, not to be left behind. It is dawn before we can say clearing is done. The chaos of creativity hidden in a stack of boxes. The front room's nearly emptied. At sunrise, counting sprouts, anticipating inspection, we find beside 43 tomatoes, 21 cucumbers, 1 zucchini, and what's this? 1 vintage cardoon. So our longevity project with expired seeds is not over after all. And the Easter poems. True story, I was being driven to church by a lady who would say, well, I try to believe in the resurrection, but there are some things that just don't happen. So I wondered why she was bothering to go to church, but we left it at that. She was giving me a ride there. Things that just don't happen. Someone told skeptics not to trust anything they were not present to witness. Thus, they were robbed of all the human past. We can test the credibility of eyewitnesses or not. On this is history built. It is beyond that, she says on the way to choir practice. Some things just don't happen. We had summer sunburn for a week in February. It does not happen as a rule, but we all lived it in 2012. No denying it happened. No denying it. They saw Jesus dead and buried. Yet here he was among them a week later, warm, breathing, eating, and drinking. This does not happen, they said to themselves. Even within the great circle of his arms, the sound of his heartbeat felt through their clothes. A one-of-a-kind event, certainly, but not difficult for Almighty God, designer of life and death. To remain unchanged by that event would be unbelievable. It changed them all right. They died rather than change their stories. They did change the world, no denying it, or you and I would have nothing to discuss this Easter day. All rights reserved. We are not those who believe in what just does not happen. To believe does not mean to pretend something is true just because we want it to be so, or because it gives us comfort. We are confident the author of life and death never sold the rights to his own natural laws. You and I could not have undone death. The creator of life and death could and did, once for all. A work not out of the ordinary for him. I sing loudly Alleluia beside a woman who said, there are things that just don't happen. I try to believe. She tried to forsake worship and came back, believing it all or not. The fountain of faith pushes back at categorical dismissal. How many mirrors does she need to clean to see God's image clearly? Just one. Easter parties. Jesus turned evil inside out. The destroyer by his own cruelty was destroyed. In the wall of death, a door opened once for all. Ever after, triumphant love shall walk us through to celebrations without end. Centuries after liars swore to stomp us out, our celebrations include stadiums filled to international capacity, joined in song, orchestras with cymbals and gongs, white lily trumpets, drum parades in the streets, and feasts that make the tables groan. Some partiers wash each other's feet. Some walk in silence among their enemies, heartbeats rejoicing in silence. Some celebrate with reunions, some with hope of reunion, while having a bowl of soup alone, certain the fasting of grief someday will be over. Unashamed. Inspect me, says the testimony. Prophecies fulfilled against impossible odds. Those who set out to disprove it become devoted followers, unshakably convinced. Addicts no longer enslaved. The blind can see. The brokenhearted are unable to forgive. To write this way makes you a collaborator, he said. Does he not see it? That to not write this way makes him a collaborator too? Would he rather I take it back a generation to T.S. Eliot to write of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing, as if it were just shadows on the ceiling? Should I stop short of naming him, who fearless on the day of pain yielded to death for my sake? Should I diminish by naming instead cruciferous dogwood and flowering Judas? Any who create are echoes of the oldest story. How many mirrors need he clean to see his creator's reflection? Only one. Second chances. Some plants, as you gardeners know, prefer the cold weather of early spring. Actually do better if you get them in ground before the last frost. Blue peas are some of those, so I mentioned those. And this references another story from the Bible. Thomas, one of the 12 disciples who just could not believe it that Jesus had risen from the dead. So here we go. Second chances. Cold-loving, blue-flowering peas. Has the ground warmed too much for you? When cold night rains return, we have our second chance. Doubting Thomas had his second chance. That his Lord had died, he did not doubt, he saw for himself. Come back and alive from death? Unless I place my hand into his side, I will not believe it, he said, when told the Easter news. Later, he did see for himself. He did touch his risen Lord's scars, the living proof. Does the same reassurance await every doubt? Lost loved ones for whom I have prayed mercy, was timing no obstacle to your rescue? Were you greeted by living proof more generous than we have supposed? Looking at falling mercury now, we give thanks for cleft ground, perfect to receive blue peas, just when I have time to plant them. We thought it might be too late, and would love to be wrong. There is a science that supports faith in Christ. It's called the law of science probability, of statistics and probability. And this poem makes use of that. Hail in Texas. News reports ice fallen on the desert, hail the size of golf balls, roads impassable without snow plows, ice shoulder high to the man in the picture. Large scale anomaly. But not more wonder than these 33 zinnias, 21 cucumbers, 5 zucchinis, 49 Roma tomatoes, and 15 flowering beans, an oasis of natural order on my north-facing balcony. Picture the hail as nickels, all with the same date except for one. You reach in one time and pull out the one with the unique date. Odds against that are about the same, that 4 major prophecies made about Jesus would come true. Yet 60 major prophecies about Jesus did come true. And more than 300 major biblical prophecies about world history have come true. A performance we would expect a living God to do and no one else. It took earth movers to clear the Texas roads of hail. It only takes the science of probability to clear the way to unshakable belief. Rippling Waves, my poem for the world. We do all hunger and thirst for peace, don't we? Rippling waves. A word set into a story draws a picture, marks time and tracks motion. A word in a letter is a touch with unlimited reach. A word set into a poem is a stone time has worried smooth before it drops into the great stream. It is no longer simply a word. It becomes part of the stream to shape the waters that flow over it to places beyond. This book touches opposite sides of the great river of being to say, remember when we were not divided? Let us come together, not to argue or fight. Let us come together to remember when we used to be one family. You will not ban my stories, and I will not ban yours. My place in the great story of eternity is as valuable as yours. I wait by the great river, looking for the wave you send to reach me. You on the other side, waiting. Look for mine. Okay, so that concludes the original writings of this reading. And now I'm going to read from a book, delightful book I picked up at Schuler's bookstore today by Charlie Mackey. It's an amazing book of art and writing. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. I'm sorry I got the title wrong in the notes there. It's full of illustrations, pen and ink. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackey, dedicated to his mother and his wonderful dog, Dill. Okay. Just a little brief note from the beginning. It says, the drawings are mainly of a boy, a mole, a fox, and a horse. I'll tell you a little bit about them, although I'm sure you'll see things here that I don't see, so I'll be quick. The boy is lonely when the note first surfaces. They spend time together gazing when the mole first surfaces. They spend time together gazing into the wild. I think the wild is a bit like life, frightening sometimes, but beautiful. In their wanderings, they meet the fox. It's never going to be easy meeting a fox if you're a mole. The boy is full of questions. The mole is greedy for cake. The fox is mainly silent and wary because he's been hurt by life. The horse is the biggest thing they have ever encountered and also the gentlest. They are all different like us, and each has their own weaknesses. I can see myself in all four of them. Perhaps you can too. Their adventures happen in springtime, where one moment snow is falling and the sun shines the next, which is also a little bit like life. It can turn on a sixpence. I hope this book encourages you, perhaps, to live courageously with more kindness for yourself and for others, and to ask for help when you need it, which is always a brave thing to do. When I was making the book, writes Charles Mackey, I often wondered, who on earth am I to be doing this? But as the horse says, the truth is, everyone is winging it. Like I'm winging it with these readings here. So I say, spread your wings and follow your dreams. This book is one of mine. I hope you enjoy it, and much love to you. Thank you, Charlie. This is hello. I'm so small, said the mole. Yes, said the boy, but you make a huge difference. What do you want to be when you grow up? Kind, said the boy. What do you think success is? Asked the boy. To love, said the mole. The mole meets the cake. Well, hello. Do you have a favorite saying? Asked the boy. Yes, said the mole. What is it? If at first you don't succeed, have some cake. I see, said the boy. Does it work? Every time. And here's the mole taking a tiny taste, and soon there's no cake left. I got you a delicious cake, said the mole. Did you? Yes. Where is it? I ate it, said the mole. Oh. But I got you another. Did you? Where is that one? The same thing seems to have happened. What do you think is the biggest waste of time? Comparing yourself to others, said the mole. Most of the old moles I know wish they had listened less to their fears and more to their dreams. Imagine how we would be if we were less afraid. And then I'll end with this because I don't want to ruin the book for you. It's a beautiful thing to own or to give as a gift. Here's the boy and the mole meditating. And one of them says, I wonder if there is a school for unlearning. With so many frustrations in our lives these days and everything in the world screeching to a halt for the pandemic, and just learning to put everything back together again, realizing it will never be the same. We need to unlearn most of the things we've been taught because they no longer apply. And I wish you the best in figuring out what the next step is in your life, where to go from here. And may it be a big adventure that has more promise and more dreams come true than you thought were possible. That's the end of my reading tonight. Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.